Hi, I'm Lucia Knight, and this is the Joy at Work podcast. Today, I'm joined by one of my former clients, someone who, like so many of us, had a moment of, wait, is this what work is supposed to feel like? And instead of brushing it off and cracking on, they paused and they chose to design their work life differently. I've asked each guest to share the 3 most important insights they learned about their future work life that they never, ever want to forget. And these aren't just light reflections. They're the result of 3, 6, or 12 months of deep work together. And now they're in a position to capture those timeless notes to their future selves. For some, saying yes to my invitation took a little bravery and a lot of what I call powerful vulnerability. Some had to dig deep because they really value their privacy. Some said yes because they understood the potential power of having a touch point to return to every year. But mostly, they said yes as an act of kindness gifted to me and to you. Let's dive in. Deirdre, what is the very first thing that you've discovered about your work life that you never, ever want to forget in the future?
Okay, I thought about this. It's 2 years now since I did the Midlife Unstuck program. And what I kind of discovered during the process and what has really stuck with me is the whole thing about my own truth. So it's that whole feeling of being aligned with me, with what I stand for value-wise, with what interests me as a person, and knowing that about myself. And I know that sounds weird, but like, think about it. Like, I've had a 30-year career in project management and IT, and I've always been on the leading edge of stuff. And it's all been go, go, go. And I've been doing really good work for other people's objectives. And, I've tried to bring myself into it when I'm doing it. But over time, what I found was if you're working for a profit-making company, even though they might be in medicine or they might be in some really good area, their objectives are not necessarily my objectives. How they deal with people or how they run a team is not necessarily the way that feels right to me. Like, I'm a person with lots of different interests. I love reading fiction because I can step into people's lives and understand their stories. I love exploring philosophy, exploring the science of happiness. There's all this stuff. But what I found was that I was only bringing a segment of myself into the workplace, and I was cordoning off a lot of myself and a lot of the stuff that really was valuable to me. And it was like I was cordoning off my own inner truth and just bringing 30%, my ability to execute tasks into the workplace. And I could execute tasks very well, but it just felt dispiriting. So my first resolution is know my own truth and stay aligned with it. So yeah,
And bring, brilliant. And it feels like, God, if you were that successful, bringing 30% of Deirdre McCarthy to work, any wonder things are blowing up for you now, that you're bringing 100%.
Yeah, look, it is true. I'm more successful, but I probably earn less money.
So far, because it's early days. Yes?
Well, also the line I've chosen means that I'm kind of, what would you say, I'm insulated because of good choices I made earlier on
in the past.
So, that's a good thing.
Brilliant. So thank you for that one. That makes complete sense to me. So what is the second thing that you have discovered about your work life that you can never forget in the future?
Okay. Radical shift is the whole power of vulnerability and kindness. So again, I would have been aware of this. And in the workplace, I would have always been a bit of a blurter and a bit of a connector, but not systematically. Whereas now, I bring vulnerability to the forefront, and I'll often, I've always dined out on my stories of social ineptitude or the things that went wrong or when I made the mistakes. but now I can build them into a brand. So I'm building a brand which is financial education for women. So I can build my vulnerability and knowing, say, about my experience as a single parent while still holding down a professional job. I can bring that forward, but I can also talk about things where I made mistakes. Maybe I trusted a tradesman I shouldn't have trusted without doing due diligence. And I bring my vulnerability and mistakes sometimes forward. And what I find hugely is this is opening doors for me. It's lowering the barriers of resistance in other people. So when I make myself vulnerable and expose something that, I've done, which maybe wasn't a perfect thing or wasn't my ideal path, other people will often respond by lowering their barriers and telling me a story about their own lives. So it's that whole vulnerability and kindness. And again, it comes back to the truth. If I speak the truth, then people will often respond with the truth.
It's a real connector, isn't it? It feels like someone's taken their mask off when they're saying, I made this mistake in the past. Yep. I've learned lessons from it. And then it opens the door to them saying, oh, I made that same mistake or a different mistake. And then you've created a new relationship, haven't you?
And also think about it, like my professional career, a lot of that was consultancy. And consultancy is often about leading with being the expert in the room. So it's often about sort of saying, this is the way to do it. So I've kind of turned that on its head because I found that was feeding into a judgmental side of me that is not well received and that I don't feel particularly good when I'm being judgmental. So I haven't entirely switched off that part of my brain, but if I lead with vulnerability and openness first, then the judgmental thing has a role to play, but it's further down the line, if you know what I mean. It's about evaluating good decisions and advising people what might or might not be a good decision. But I'm leading from my experience and openness. And I think that works quite well. And I think it's just changed the dynamic of my life, more than just business life. So, yeah.
All right. And the final thing that you never want to forget in your future work life?
Okay, so this came from learning, which was while I was doing Midlife Unstuck, and I was also doing other programs like The Artist's Way. And it's that sense that there is enough to go around. So that the world isn't necessarily a competitive, one person wins, one person loses type environment. I would have been using that against myself in two ways, both by feeling that sometimes I had to be seen to be the winner, and also by feeling that sometimes I had to stand back and allow somebody else to take the prize because there was only one prize. So I was hiding my own light under a bushel because I didn't want other people to feel uncomfortable or whatever. So now I have this philosophy of there's plenty to go around. There's plenty of prizes for plenty of awards. And with that attitude, I also find I'm winning awards. But with that attitude, the world is a better place then for what I put into it and what I seek to get from it. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it's, it's like I'm not looking for external validation. But external validation is actually often happening because I have this belief that it doesn't matter about any one particular competition, or it doesn't matter about any one grant funding or whatever it is that I'm doing in the startup world. There's enough there for all of us.
And what difference does that make to how
it means I'm actually putting myself forward for more awards, strangely enough, even when I don't feel that I'm fully ready or whatever, because I take the view there's plenty there, I may or may not be considered for this, but equally, if I am considered and I win a prize and I win some funding, it doesn't mean that the next person has been disenfranchised.
Got it.
So, it's just a slightly different way of thinking.
Deirdre, can you tell me what joy at work looks like or feels like to you?
Joy at work feels like I'm bringing my full self. I'm doing stuff that stimulates my brain and my emotions. So it's what's the word? Congruent. Things are working together, yeah. And it's not that I have to choose between task completion versus emotional satisfaction. It's I'm able to do a bit of both, and that's actually the space I'm inhabiting right now. I'm going to hackathons. I'm very involved in leading edge tech, and I'm in the startup community, and I'm doing a social enterprise. I've founded a social enterprise, and that's ticking so many boxes for me. So it's about congruency, I think. I think that's the right word.
Deirdre and I work together on a program called The Fierce Emporium. If you're interested in working with me, just scan the show notes and there is a link to the 3 programs on offer.